I was born at a little place called Hook, Hook, which is on the outskirts of a town called March. There was the church, the chapel, and 2 bungalows, and that was it. That was, and a pub. We was living in a converted railway carriage. My father was a horse keeper. I was working at a company called the British Thomson and Houston Company Limited, and we was making Wellington bombers. I was an apprentice in the tool room. But when the war came, I thought, I'm not going to walk everywhere, I'm going to ride, so I'll join the Navy. So rather than wait for being called up, I volunteered at 17 and 3 months old to join the Navy. No walking or marching in the Navy, you're riding all the time, aren't you? When I finished my seamanship training, a fortnight, you had to go in front of a panel, and they decided, well, they asked you, what did you want to do in the Navy? And I said, well, I got a choice. And they said yes. I said, I want to go to radar. And there was look of surprise all along. What do you know? Because radar was very, very new, and it was only just coming out. But I knew because my sister worked in the factory where I worked, but she worked on radar. Once I mentioned radar, it was a lot of questions. There was two male officers and a Wren officer in the interview, and they kept asking questions, and I kept going back to the radar. So they said, right, we'll put you on a radar course, and they sent me to the Isle of Man. All the hotels along the front were taken over by the forces, and the 3 hotels that we were in were given over to the Navy, and I was stuck in one of those, and so we did our marching along the front at Douglas there, and we used to have to go 92 steps or something like that up to Douglas Head. We had a radar station on Douglas Head monitoring the convoys coming down through the Irish Sea. I think I was there for about 6 weeks or something like that. The next thing I do is I was sent home on embarkation leave, and I was sent home for 14 days leave, but I'd only been home 2 or 3 days when the policeman knocked on the door and he said, here's a warrant, you've got to go back. So I went back to Ganges, and then when I got there, they said, pack your kit bag and your case and report down at because there was a railway station down the bottom. He said, report down there, he said, for 6 o'clock, which is what I did. And the next thing I know, I was on a train up to Scotland. I was met by a truck, a naval truck, and the petty officer said, get in there, and we went for a short ride, and the next thing I was on a train all the way down to a naval dispersal unit. And when I got there, they said, oh, we're looking for a radar man, so we've got a ship for you. And the next thing I knew, pack your case and your kit bag, you're off tonight. And I got finished, and I had to join HMS Quadrant, which was a Q-class fleet destroyer. She was at anchor in Colombo Harbour. From Bombay, I went all the way down the coast, across the causeway into Ceylon. Well, it isn't Ceylon now, is it? It's Sri Lanka. And the train had got there was no compartments in it. It was, and There was no windows, so every time it stopped at the station, there was all the natives looking in through the door. You couldn't sleep. What we'd done, they allowed us, because we had our hammocks with us, so we got hold of the hammocks and we slung the hammocks in the carriage. Go down to Sri Lanka, and I was in the transit camp there for 2 weeks, and then suddenly my name came up on the tannoy with the others to report to the dispersal unit for 6 o'clock that evening with your kit and everything. So we had to pack all their gear in the kit bag, and then a little case. We had they issued us with a little case, so it puts personal things in. Rather than let you walk about doing nothing, each day you was on parade, and the petty officer would come along and say, right, you three, so-and-so, you two, so-and-so, and me and my mate, we were the last two in the line, and they said, I don't know what we're going to do with you pair. So anyway, they said, I'll tell you what, report to the transport office. So I looked at my mate, so he looked, and anyway, we went, report, and the petty officer said, you see that truck there? He said, get in there. He said, and drive around there. We said, we can't drive. He said, you will do in a minute. And we drove this truck on the parade ground till we could do it properly. He said, right, now you can go into, go down the docks to pick up a Seafire, which was a Spitfire with the clipped wings, which is what they had for the Navy. They weren't a Spitfire, they was called a Seafire. And we went and picked up this, and this trailer was 30 foot long. And picked up this trailer, and we had to take it back down to the base. Oh, and it was terrible. I went all through the war, the Pacific campaign, from Sydney to the ship was the first one that entered Tokyo Harbour to take the surrender.
So let's go back a step. So from Sri Lanka to Australia,
yes.
What was that leg of the journey like?
Well, as far as we was concerned, we were just passengers. They had a naval base in Sydney, just outside Sydney, and it was on the Sydney horse racing course. The Navy took over the course, and that was the establishment. There was 6 of us altogether, but 2 got sunk in the Indian Ocean, and that left the other 4, and we 4 were then based in Australia. The Americans' radar system was completely different to ours, so eventually they changed the American system to our system because the English system was better than the Yanks. We was in dock having repairs done to the ship, and I was the sentry on the bottom of the gangway, and this guy kept coming up. He was one of the dockyard mateys, and he was working on the ship, and he kept coming up the gangway, and he kept talking to me, and I said to him, shut your mouth. The bloody captain's up there watching me. I'm not allowed to talk to anybody. So anyway, he came one day, and he got an envelope, and he stuffed it down the front of his blouse. And when I got back down on the deck, down to the mess deck, I said to my mate, hey, look what I've got here. And I pulled it here, and there was an Australian 10-shilling note and instructions how to get to his house. So I said, are you going to come? He said, well, I don't know. I said, well, I ain't going to go without you. Anyway, so eventually I persuaded him to go, and we got on a bus and a train, and we made our way to them, and we was adopted by that family. But later on in life, after the war was finished, there was a knock on the door, and I opened the door, and there stood the lady. She'd come over from Australia to Ireland to see some friends in Ireland, and she said, while I'm here, I'm going to look up Ken Tinkler.
How lovely.
Yeah.
And what was the food like
Food?
throughout all of this?
Well, it was basic, let's put it that way. If we wanted some fresh fish, we dropped a depth charge. We picked up the Echo with the submarine detection unit. We'd pick up the shoals of fish, and we would sail and then drop a depth charge, and it would kill some, but most of them it would sort of knock them unconscious, and they would float on the floor, and we just picked them up, and that was it. So we had fresh. I began to look like a fish. We were removed from the ship and put into a transit camp at a place called Candy, and if you look on the map you'll see it, and that was a naval establishment there, and we was on the edge of the jungle, and my mate said to me, "Hey," he said, "there must be some bloody bananas out there." He said, "Shall we go and have a look?" So we got under the fence, and we saw this banana tree. Then he'd got a big knife with him, a machete, and we chopped it off, and we was carrying this, and suddenly he said to me, I got on the front, he got the back, he said, "Hey, there's a snake in here." So we dropped it and run. We never did get the bananas. So we fought from Sydney all the way up to Tokyo, and the Admiral Sir Bruce Fraser was the Admiral in charge of the British Navy, and Admiral King was the American Navy chief. We was on one side of the Pacific, and the Americans were on the other side, and we went up together. Well, the English ships were metal, so that when the Japanese dive bombers, when they came in on a raid, all the guns were over. So the Japanese adopted something that before they took off, they was given their burial rights, and they was on a suicide commission. They never knew they was going to come back, and their idea was to land on the ships and blow themselves up. And of course, our ships had metal decks, but the Americans had wooden decks. So I can see American ships near disappearing over the risers on fire. But when they hit airships, they just bounced off.
And I heard that you came into a bit of a sticky situation when it came to Sumatra.
Well, we knew that there was a naval, a Japanese naval establishment there, but we didn't know that they'd been secretly building an airstrip. So when we got there, we thought we was going to be fighting the Navy, but we weren't. It was we got clobbered with the Air Force, suicide bombers. Yeah, but somebody were looking after us. When the capitulation came, our destroyer, the guy in charge of the British Navy out there was Admiral Sir Bruce Fraser, and we had to personally, our ship, transfer him from his aircraft carrier, which he was on, out to sea to meet the USS Missouri, which was an aircraft carrier, and that's where they signed the peace treaty. And yes, I was standing at the back while they signed the peace treaty.
Wow, so you witnessed it, you were there.
Yes, yeah.
And how come you were picked?
Because I was a bosun, which means that somebody had to be in charge of the little boat, and because I was bosun, so it was my boat, and so I had to go transfer Admiral Sir Bruce Fraser over to the American battleship to meet Admiral King.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry, am I making you a bit emotional?
That's all right.
Is it just talking about
it's
it?
okay.
Sorry.
They didn't know whether the Japanese had depth charged the harbour in Tokyo, so the big ships stayed out at sea, and the smaller ones, which I was on a destroyer, had to go in to find out if the harbour was safe for the bigger ships to come in. Scary or not, you had to go. The people were so friendly. They were really friendly, yeah. The Americans took over a cinema and called it their Nuffy Club, if you like. And so, of course, we was allowed to use it. They took over, if you like. Instead of going in together, they went in and everything was Americanized. If you go to Tokyo now and look in the moat that's around the palace, you should see my hat floating about in there somewhere. Because we were messing about and my mate knocked it off in there, and I got 3 days punishment because returned to the ship and properly dressed. We had to go round to the British Protectorate Islands. That was our job, to go and see that the peace was. To make sure that they knew that the peace was on, and that was that took about 6 or 7 weeks, I think, transferring from one island to another. We had a Japanese army officer, a Japanese Air Force officer, and a naval officer, and we had all those, and we were flying the Japanese flag. We was flying the Union Jack and the naval and the Navy ensign. Yeah, we didn't know whether they were agreeing to the peace or not, but.
So, do you remember when the atomic bombs were dropped?
We wasn't aware it was happening, but after it happened, there was a naval base at in Hiroshima and also in Nagasaki, but the British adopted Nagasaki as the American, as the English say, and the Americans had the other one. So, I did have some photographs of Hiroshima. It was completely flat.
Oh, so you saw the aftermath?
Yes, yeah. Well, it was just laid flat. It was just laid flat.
After the end of the war, you stayed in the Navy for a little bit, didn't you?
Oh yes, that was quite a while before they got demobbed. Corsham was a land-based training establishment. That was when they started taking what I call the peacetime Navy but people. Yeah, we had to use our experience to try and transfer to them. I carried Princess Elizabeth's mail to Prince Philip, well, because he was one of the training officers at the training school, and I became the camp postman. So I used to have to go down, and this was 1947 when the snow, and I've got photographs with me with sitting on a bike, and the snow is up to the axles of the bike in Corsham, and I used to have to go down to the Corsham post office every morning to pick up the ship's mail, and I carried Lizzie's letter from there to Prince Philip because he was one of the training officers. Overall, I can say I enjoyed my Navy days. It wasn't all. I think there's only two occasions when I thought I was in real danger of my life, but otherwise it's enjoyable.